Outnumbered overtime. OT, baby. I'm getting my voice back. I'm so excited.
I liked the Friday voice.
I didn't have a voice.
Hi, I'm Harris Faulkner.
You and Tony like that voice. I was decidedly silent most of the time, and it was deep.
Hey, David Asman.
Hey!
Melissa Francis, jedediah Bila's on the couch today. It's a good show.
This is a fun day.
Interesting hour
Big
of television.
We ended on a dark
day.
note with the Stanford University rape story, but that has been a big conversation. I know that many people have been having. I'm sure it's lit up our chat. We should get on there.
By the way, you mentioned that guy that it was in a courtroom that jumped across at the guy who murdered his daughter.
At his daughter's attacker.
And I was saying I would have done exactly the same thing. Oh. Exactly the same thing.
So I'm getting on Facebook Live right now because we are, going into our second week there, and we just want to welcome everybody there now on Facebook Live. We see you guys taking over the feed. Thank you.
Good.
A couple things, as Sandra was just saying, that rape case is one that's getting a lot of traction, and the last thing also that we talked about was Katie Couric.
Katie Couric, yeah.
And so on the live chat, Emily Trex writes, well, look how fast this works. Katie who? I mean, it's, what do you guys think about the problem of the editing behind the scenes?
I think it's a huge problem, and a repeated pattern for her, and just, Well,
it is now.
I think, in this day and age with the way technology is and how prepared people are when they go into interviews, though, and you can have your phone running, and everyone is really cautious about this, and so many question the media. It's astonishing to me that she thought she was going to get away with this, that no one was going to catch her, because 20 years ago you could get away with something like that, but now, even if you had an agenda, I mean, it doesn't take a genius to sit back and say, this would be really easy to figure out.
And be careful what you wish for. She's the producer. There are a lot of us anchors who think, gee, I'd like to add producer to my name. She was the producer of that, and now she bears the responsibility as the producer for the way in which it was conducted. It was more than just an anchor flying in and flying out with a quick interview, being briefed on it. She was there. She was responsible for the whole thing. The director may have been the one that actually did the snipping or the cutting, but she's the one who had to approve it all.
I also think it really shows you that point that I think it's okay to have an opinion and have a point of view. We're all human. I mean, if you're engaged in the process and you're engaged in politics and you're engaged in current events, you generally have an opinion, but you have to be, number one, open about it, and number two, objective. Then when you sit down, and sometimes that's saying, I'm coming from this point of view, but I'm hearing you say this, and sort of having a discussion. You don't then secretly stack the deck. I think she's someone who's, number one, denied having an opinion and tried to act like she's unbiased when she's not. And then number two, sat there and stacked the deck. And it's just, if you truly believe in your points, you don't have to cheat like that.
You know what I think is interesting too, Sandra? What's going on with the State Department right now? They're in trouble for having edited a video.
Speaking of editing,
that is public record, and now Secretary
And how
Kerry,
real is the outrage that we're hearing from John Kerry?
But the same thing is happening. I mean, we have this in two different spectrums here. I think that's fascinating. Yeah. You guys are pointing to the technology that could keep us from doing this. I'm pointing to the moral base that keeps us doing it as a society. Why do we even tolerate? You're right. We should be really angry.
And Melissa, I think, brought up the key point here, which is that if the evidence points to a certain conclusion in any kind of report, whether it's a newspaper article or a television spot or whatever it is, you focus on the evidence. You don't try to twist the evidence to make your point. You don't come to the point before you've done the reporting. You come to the point after you've done the reporting.
Yeah, if you feel that strongly, write an op-ed. I mean, there are plenty of other ways. If you have that kind of strong opinion, you want to go out and make a point, there's a lot of avenues to do it. Do a documentary, where you have the outcome that you want. But she did it. This was supposed to be real. I mean, you can have it. You can be like Michael Moore. We all know Michael Moore's got an agenda. He gets out there. You know what you're getting when you go to the theater and you watch what he has.
Do a documentary with comment.
Yeah,
right.
That's opinion.
Don't do a documentary using your long name as a journalist. People trust you and pretending it's news. So a lot of people want to talk about Bernie Sanders.
Yes,
seeing that.
I love
live
that.
Chat. Rufus Sulfur says, "Wouldn't it be a hoot if President Trump appointed Bernie as the chairman of the ethics committee?" Laugh out loud. I had asked during the live TV version of us. We're live now, but the TV version of us, was there crossover between a Trump and a Bernie follower? The one thing we saw today with Bernie Sanders outside the White House is this guy doesn't have a lot of quit in him. I mean, they do have that in common.
Yeah.
I don't know where people are getting that idea from, where they feel like people, there's
well, some of the polling.
I don't think that's going to happen. Because once they start listening, I mean, Trump and Bernie Sanders have nothing really in common.
No, they absolutely do. I totally disagree because they have screw the system. I mean, they're both actual
policy-wise, what they would actually do when it comes to taxes, when it comes to economy. I mean, there's not a lot in common there.
They want to dismantle what is currently going on, and I think that you're giving people too much credit for understanding the policy behind the message. And if your basic message is, I hate politics as usual, they're all a bunch of liars, then basically both of those candidates are saying that. And I happen to think that politicians are all a bunch of liars. You know, I mean, I don't trust anyone who's been in Washington for a long time. And while I would never vote for Bernie Sanders because I don't believe in socialism, I don't think it works. From an economic point of view, I appreciate that part of him where he's saying, no, I'm not going to let the wool be pulled over my eyes. I mean, he sees the Clintons for the oligarchs they are.
Well, and speaking of the Clintons, he is an original. We were talking about Hillary Clinton during our 1 hour of Outnumbered and how she is not seen as being an original, as being unique, as being genuine.
Authentic.
He is genuine.
He's authentic.
And he does, I mean, I know a lot of people say a lot of Donald Trump is for show, he's a showman, et cetera, but he's an original. You know, there's only one Donald Trump. There's only one Bernie Sanders. I guess Larry David does a good impression of him. But,
but basically, there's technically two Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, exactly.
Bob Hawthorne, who's watching us on Facebook Live, you're not creepy. Dude, we love the fact that you tune in and look at our shoes.
Oh!
Whoa. I'm just saying.
No, we talk about it when we actually
talk about our shoes.
Get out
look
here.
at David raises.
Talk about our shoes.
Oh, not mine? Okay, you can't see mine.
I
think that's done on purpose.
But with Bernie Sanders, the one thing that's for sure is that people will be watching tonight to see what the heck is he going to say later at this event. There are a couple things going on. Sandra, I really wanted to get you to talk about this today, and we didn't get to it because you had some good information. So give the peeps the inside scoop.
I hope I actually have some.
You do. Donald Trump left Trump Tower just shortly before we ended the TV version of us to go over to the Four Seasons.
Okay.
Why?
Oh, fundraising. Is it going to be a huge story this afternoon? I mean, where he says he doesn't need to raise the amount that the party says he's going to win the general election.
Right.
So, David, where do you think he's going to go with this?
I think he's partly right. I mean, look, the bottom line, we all know that the news business benefits from having Donald Trump on. That's not going to change in the next couple of months. So when it comes to a decision between ideology, they may hate Donald Trump, but he gets good ratings. Which do you think is going to win? I think the ratings will win, so he will get a lot of free publicity.
There's an even bigger point than that, though. It's so much more simple. When you call Donald Trump and you ask him to come on, he does constantly. He loves to be on, and he takes advantage of it, and he's smart about that. Right. How long did Fox ask Hillary Clinton before she came on
Seems
once?
Like years.
So when they talk about the fact that the media puts Trump on again and again and again, and we just want ratings,
he'll go on.
It's because he says yes, and she does not say yes. It is that simple.
Yeah. There you go.
By the way, I guess my preface to that was that our colleague on the Business Network, Charlie Gasparino, will be there at the Four Seasons, as well as Anthony Scaramucci will be there.
Scaramucci's on the inside trying to get people to give money to Trump.
This is what Trump is saying. He says there's no reason for him to raise $1 billion for the general election. But he's meeting with big money donors today. So why is he meeting with the big money donors if he doesn't need the big money?
It's a little late. That's the problem. We had Anthony Scaramucci on yesterday on our show, and he was talking about how he admitted it's really late to be raising $1 billion.
I'm understanding this in two different ways, so you guys have to school me on this. Is he saying that he doesn't want to raise the money, or he doesn't want to give the money?
No, he's not giving any money. He's raising it. And what he's saying is he is starting very much later than Hillary Clinton, who already has this, giant trough of money. So he's saying, look, we probably don't have the time to raise as much as her, but I don't need as much as her because I don't have to buy as much ad time. But at the same time, they do need money for data, for research, for people, for ground troops, for all kinds of things, and for down ticket. And so they're meeting today at the Four Seasons to get the big donors and the bundlers working on it.
I like the Four Seasons. By the way.
Oh, yeah, who doesn't?
So here's what he said exactly. Quote, there's no reason to raise that, referring to the $1 billion. I just don't think I need nearly as much money as other people need because I get so much publicity. I get many invitations to be on television, to Melissa's point. I get so many interviews if I want them.
So he can spend the money that he does raise on these other things because he won't have to say. Real quickly before we go, Kabuke writes, because I've been kind of going, Kev Dubuque, I've been going between Facebook Live and our live chat. On the couch, couch, are they going to bring up the GOP as bringing back drop Trump at the convention? I want to give you the last word.
Are they going to bring it up? Is the GOP going to go that route? I think they're going to try to solidify behind him. I think at this point, most of the establishment, they're doing their best. Look, if he stops making comments about judges and these ridiculous things that he says, I think the hope is to solidify, and I think he's probably going to try to pick a vice presidential running mate that will help that happen.
John Kasich?
John Kasich won't do it. I think that would be a great pick, but I don't think he'll do it. And I think, like I said before on our live show, if it's Hillary Bernie, if that happens, Republicans better get to it, because that's a very difficult ticket, and that also will prevent what we were talking about before, which is a lot of these independents who would be inclined to go for Bernie. They're not going to go to Trump if Bernie has just joined hands with Hillary Clinton. So
maybe, although that's a pretty left-leaning ticket. You almost tip over. All right, fun to have all you guys. We'll see you back tomorrow.